Many of you ask for Sungoddesstarot, the psychic who made highly accurate predictions about the Delphi case and the Mellisa Caddick case. So in this episode, I have brought her into the studio and we're going to ask her lots of questions, including how can a Christian be involved in tarot? The background story is I invited Sungoddesstarot to read into two murder cases. One on Abby and Libby's murder case in Delphi, Indiana, USA, and the others on Mellisa Caddick, Sydney, Australia. And in both cases, Sungoddess shared very accurate information, so accurate that the people that watched the YouTube made comments that she's probably a phony, and she Googled the information. So I have a recording of her and me doing a Zoom interview with a live audience, and I'll show it to you very shortly. Quantum skill, metaphysics skill, what's it all about? Uri Geller claims he can bend spoons with his psychic mind, and Sean McMara claims he can move objects also with this extrasensory powers. And there's a group of people who claim that they can do things blindfold and using the third eye chakra. This boy, look at this boy, he could even drive around his farm blindfolded. Are these things true, or are they just big hoax? This is one of my favorite quotes from Nikola Tesla. The day science begins to study non-physical phenomena, it will make more progress in one decade than all previous centuries of its existence. So what it's trying to say is, if we go beyond the textbook and if we are open enough to learn about things like quantum physics, how thoughts can change the molecular structure of water, which has already been proven. How can someone that's speaking to plants affect its growth? We're not saying that we need to accept it. We just say, can we be open about it? Because new knowledge and wisdom comes from being open about contradicting points of view without the need to accept it. So there'll be three groups of people. One group that have already decided that this is all hoax, a big BS, and that won't have nothing to do with it. And there's one group that are already believers and they're already discussing at their level. And there's another group of people, maybe some of you are just watching with curiosity and exploring into it. So this is not the episode I want to dwell very deeply into this, but I will just share with you, quick bite size so that this video ain't going to be very long. It works something like this. You know that light has waves. You have never seen light waves, but you know light have waves because scientifically it's proven that if the light hits on an object, it goes to your eyes, that's light waves. Sound has waves because if somebody shouts and you can hear it, then you know there must be some kind of vibration and goes into your ears. Now, I want to introduce to you this thing called thought has waves. Thought has waves. So it's a question of where is the receiver? So a lot of people believe it's the pineal gland that's somewhere here in your head, just near the pituitary gland. People can receive the thought waves. Some probes that were placed not touching the skull, but when they show the candidate different types of pictures and stimulus, you could see that the signals that was coming through the radiograph machine were moving according to the stimulus that was showing the candidate. And this shows that thought has waves because since the probe was not touching, the thoughts jump from the skull through the air into the probe. So that's the long and short story of it. If we are open that thought has waves, then we can start the interview and we can ask Joanna, Sungoddesstarot, what's this all about? Bring her on the show today so that we can ask her all the tough questions. Welcome, Joanna.
And just for the record, when Kristen asked me to do that about the Delphi murders, I've never done something like this before. Trust me, I've never done something like this before. And when he told me to do it, I was like, you got to be kidding, And I thought, let's do that for fun. Why not, It was for me, flexing of my intuitive muscles. It was the first time. It was experimental, kind of. And I kind of randomly picked the cards, I just interpreted and kind of read it out to him, what I saw through the interpretation. And he was like, oh my God, that kind of coincides with what the police statements were. I thought, oh, okay, maybe it's coincidence. Then he decided to do a second one. which was Australia, I think.
It was Mellisa Caddick in
Yeah,
Australia, and
yeah.
that it was even more creepy because that was so accurate. You know, Joanna made an immediate call when I said Mellisa Caddick. She said, "I do not know who she is, but she's dead." And we already knew that she was dead because rotten food was found washed up in the shore of Sydney. Joanna did not. It was just several minutes after I gave her the name, she just said, "Okay, Mellisa Caddick."
Yeah. Why would you find a rotten food? You know what I mean? I mean, of all things, you can find a body, you can find clothes, but rotten food, you know? So weird. I wouldn't have guessed, you see. So
and she
that was
also made
something.
a sensational call. She said part of the body is on the sea and part of the body on land.
Yeah.
Hey, even if you are Saikong, so you may not dare to make that type of call unless you're very sure. So she said, half the body is in sea and half the body on land. First of all, you're a Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the cards that you're talking about is this thing called tarot, which has a hell lot of Christians.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of it. It's just images on paper. I just kind of infer some of my interpretations using the cards to kind of, you know, relate the situation to it.
Okay, why did you use tarot? Because if you look in research under tarot cards were once used only for nobility because they are fantastic artwork and they use it as a game. Like our Uno
in the
game.
French and Italian court, I think. Yeah.
Right. So it was started as a game card and not a psychic card or whatever.
Yes. Yeah.
And later on, people used it for intuition and psychic cards. So why did you use tarot, knowing that it was sort of forbidden as for Christians?
Over the years, I remember when I went through a difficult stage in my career, I remember my teacher called me and said, "Would you like to come to my tarot class?" And I was like, "Me, a banker? You want me to go and do tarot? I mean, all right, not." But I did it anyway because I thought it could just kind of settle me and calm me down from all those months of terrible squabbles I had with my boss. And in that class, I really excelled in it. I thought I was very good at it. I enjoyed it. Okay. And every day, I would look at the cards and I would just kind of put meanings to it, like what I saw just now, I showed you just now. And I'll look at it and I'll journal, you know. I say, okay, the Eight of Swords, negative perception. Look at the swords, looks like that, you know. So our journal.
Swords, do you have a book that says this is supposed to be negative? Do you learn that or you created your own?
I created my own. There's a little white book in there that will tell you the meanings. Right. But I will always teach my students, throw away the little white book. Okay, because if you learn by heart, you'll never be a good reader. Okay, everything about a tarot is all about here. Okay, all about what's in your heart. These cards, all they do is validate what you feel here. That's all they do. You ask a question and you randomly pick a card. Was that how it worked? All you said to me was 2 girls took a walk and they were murdered. They can't find a murderer in this small town. That's all you said to me. That's all. Right? Remember? All I do is I visualize these 2 girls. I don't know who they are, but I visualize walking in the woods or whatever. Then I shuffle the cards and I go like, okay, Libby and Abby, that was their names, I remember. What exactly happened to you? Okay, and that's how I picked up when I pick up the cards, you know, I just read from the cards and I just go like, okay, it says this is what I think it is. And this is where everybody wants to know. You may say it's random, but it must be somehow divinely picked so that the right picture can come out and the right interpretation might happen. How did that happen? I don't have scientific explanation apart from the fact that I picked it randomly. I just believe that I'm guided to do that. Okay, I mean, spiritually, I believe if my intent is pure and my intent was really, what happened to you, poor girls? I'm a mother too. I can imagine how panicky your parents will be and how we want to find the truth, right? So that was all my thought was. You know, if the intent is pure, I feel that I'm guided to pick up the right cards. Who is guiding the intention or your hand to pick that type of card, the right card? Do you go back to your Christian faith, or do you think it's of course natural gift, or so do you think it's a Christian, your Christian? For me, I feel so. I strongly feel so. It can't be. I don't see anything else apart from the fact that if your intention is pure, okay, and the purpose is to do good and to help others, all right, then you're guided by goodness, by light.
When you were working in the corporate, did your colleagues and your bosses know you were doing this?
Of course.
What was their
Yes.
reaction like?
I'm so upfront. When I was upfront, I was quite shocked that even my regional boss was like, hey, you know what? You can use this to do something interesting. I mean, we have a yearly charity month in October. So often in October, I read for the colleagues and they will tong the $10 inside the pot for me to give to the children's wishing well.
Since I guess everyone here is Singaporean, have you ever looked into the Winnifred Teo case? What happened to Winnifred Teo when she was murdered some 30 over years ago?
Actually, Evelyn, I think it was during our time.
Yeah.
CJ. Yeah.
For those of you who do not know, Winnifred Teo, she was a CJC student. She was jogging in the evening somewhere near 6th Avenue, and then she was murdered, raped. The murder was never found, so now I'm just throwing a curveball at Joanna. Have you ever looked into it? Are you doing it now?
So when I try to connect like this, okay, and find out what who the killer is and stuff like that, you know, what I see is somebody who, if you look at the Nine of Swords upside down, okay, Nine of Swords, if I explain these cards, right, this card, it has all the swords above her, okay, and she looks like she's almost like in anxiety, a state of anxiety and stress, and she's in bed. So it looks like these swords that represent anxiety is causing her the anxiety even at night, you know, and throughout the day. But I picked it upside down, which to me exacerbates the whole anxiety and stress and confirms to me that the person who did what he did has been going through, like, either has a psychotic issue or depression, okay? And it's not somebody that randomly does it. You don't know what to do. He's like almost in desperate stage. And that's where I picked the Knight of Swords. Okay, so if I were to look at the Knight of Swords, okay, if it's right side up, the Knight of Swords represent, can you see the knight with his swords again? And sword is again mental and somebody who is full of enthusiasm, full of but when it's upside down, is somebody who doesn't know what he's doing. Whatever he's done out of that depression, when he did it, he's been through a whole protracted period of depression. This culminated in killing Winnifred all of a sudden. Okay, and I think, you know, again, another case almost like Libby and Abby's case. The only reason why this is not found is this depressed guy or this person with a mental issue guy. People wouldn't have thought that he is the killer.
Is he still alive? Would you know?
He is still alive. So the four of wands. So he's not only alive, the guy is even married.
Can we have his address?
I can't tell that.
My question to you is, through all your sessions that you did, what's the accuracy level, the feedback that you get?
I haven't been wrong, because I usually tell them that when I read tarot or when I do numerology or whatever, it's not giving you that answer. It's actually giving you an advice so that when you can make your own decisions to influence your own outcome. Okay, you are your own master of your own destiny. I mean, ultimately, you make that own decision yourself, right? That this tool should never be associated with fortune telling. Never. To me, that is wrong. You can't tell fortunes. You make your own fortunes. You don't predict 40 numbers. You don't.
Okay, going to put you on another spot. Do you remember the McDonald kids that went missing?
Don't quite remember them.
And McDonald's gave a reward for $1 million if you could give information to find it. There was a days when there were a lot of rumors saying that they were building the Benjamin Shears Bridge, and the contractors were chopping off children's head and putting into the bridge so that they will look after the bridge. And our parents all didn't allow us to go out at that time. I don't know how many of you were old enough to hear all those stories. Okay, let's see Joanna in action.
If you see this one, the chariot, 2 horses, a black horse and a white horse, and then it's and then the charioteer is reigning over these two and with a sword and all that, right? For a situation like this, when I interpret it, person as the one who have kidnapped these two. The next thing I ask is, then are the 2 of them alive? Actually, see this one. This is always in the 4 of Swords is a state of rest and stuff like that, right?
And where they are or how they died, are you able to find out?
If you're talking about whether they're in Singapore or they're overseas, okay, I have an going to overseas card. I believe they were killed. Okay, so this is a 3 of Swords. Okay, so 3 of Swords, the traditional meaning is about heartbreak and disappointment. But when I pull it upside down,
And that is where I think I'll stop revealing more information, because Joanna went on to share some very unpleasant ending for the two kids, and I do not want to perpetuate the pain that the parents have already carried through for the last few decades. What else happened during the Zoom meeting is one of the participants stepped up and wanted Joanna to do a reading for her, and Joanna did. And the participants began to cry buckets of tears. So out of the courtesy of her privacy, I am not posting that part up. There was also a clergyman, intuitive clergyman. So I asked Joanna if it's okay if this man of the cloth give his view if her gift is from the good spirit, and it was confirmed that it's from a good Christian, it's a Christian spirit, and that she can continue to practice this. Although tarot has always been controversial in the church, it doesn't mean he's approving it. And he also said that Joanna, is not the first person in the church to use tarot cards as a tool to evangelize or to speak to people. So there we have it. If you have any comments on today's episode or other episodes, do feel free to write in the comment below, but keep your comments polite and gracious, and we will extend the same graciousness to you. What other things would you like us to talk about on body language and face reading, and of course some of these metaphysics stuff and also quantum physics stuff like ESP, remote viewing, whatever. So we'd love to see you in the next episode. Don't forget to watch the 2 episodes that we mentioned in this video.